Ayy, look, yeah, ayy. I'm in the lab like Dexter, brand new batch he tested. I'm with all the extras, don't try and bitch, I'm pressure. I'm the type to step on steppers, I'm the type to step on steppers. I'm the type to step on steppers, I'm the type to step on steppers.
Man, speaking of the Miami Heat, I say we jump right into it. With first things first, we'll talk about the playing tournament. In the very first game that kicked off the playing tournament, we had the Atlanta Hawks go up against the Miami Heat, and the Atlanta Hawks were able to come out victorious in this game, winning the game 116 to 105.
I mean, like this game, my predictions when we are talking about this game in our preview, I had us winning this game, the Miami Heat, simply because I felt like the defense on Trey Young, just personnel wise and how we're able to switch everything would have given him a problem. And Trey Young didn't necessarily kill us, per se. Like he had a 25-point game. He had pretty good. He was efficient. He made the right plays, but it was the glass that just we got absolutely mauled on. I mean, when you talk about Okongu, Capella, Jalen Johnson, Sadiq Bey, every single person that was able to get on the glass just punished Miami Heat. And that's again back to poor roster construction. I mean, you have Bam out there with Caleb Martin, Jimmy Butler, Tyler Hero. Like, who's gonna grab a single rebound? It's not gonna happen. There's times where there's lineups where it's Hero, Lowry, Butler, Caleb Martin, and Bam. That's literally a lineup full of guys that are all 6'5" and 169 guy, of course. And plus, with the Miami Heat scheme, you're gonna have Bam switching out constantly onto guys. And so, what can Bam do? Is he able to gonna guard out on the perimeter? Is he gonna really stay inside? Like what position is Bam gonna be put in for them to have success in that type of game? And so, offensively, I mean, Jimmy Butler is missing a bunch of gimmies, stuff that he normally makes. Bam was missing easy shots that, since the All-Star break, I don't know what happened to his offensive game. It's just taking a nosedive. And the Atlanta Hawks, they took advantage of that, just punished us on the glass. And, it sucks, but, we're able to pull one out the next game, which we'll get to. But that was a tough loss.
Yeah, to piggyback on basically what you were saying, that game is just hilarious due to the fact that we're never gonna see another Lowry game like that ever again. Like that guy put his all in that game, and for us not to deliver is a bit like it's heartbreaking. To see him drop 30 was insane. He was shooting the lights out. Tyler had a decent game. I mean, it wasn't like a wow, like he's going crazy, but he played his part. And then as like I know Bam gets a lot of flack, but you got to think about it. If you're switching to the guard, who's gonna get the board? Max Strus at the 4, like obviously like we're gonna get into the game where he had an amazing game, but like that's gonna be daunting once we play the Bucks, which that's obviously gonna like we're playing Brook and Giannis and all that. And then as far as that game, Jimmy, he was struggling a bit. He didn't the thing I hate that he didn't do, like he didn't try to like shoot the ball outside of the perimeter. He kept on trying to drive in on Capella. I feel like he should have tried to space it out, try to shoot a bit, try to get something that wasn't provided for us that game, but it was a disappointing game nonetheless.
I mean, yeah, y'all hit it on point, man. For me, it was, the key points of the game was a lot of, 63 rebounds for the Atlanta Hawks, 39 for Miami Heat, 53 bench points for the Hawks, and to 37 for the Heat. And 33 of those points came from Kyle Lowry. Nobody else contributed from the bench or anything like that. And like Henry said, man, it's crazy to see Lowry go off like this, and he didn't have no other help coming in. So, I mean, they just got out rebound, the second chance points, the third opportunities off the rebounds, like it's crazy, and Butler 6 for 19. He didn't do much. He wasn't aggressive. He wasn't hitting his jump shots. Bam, he had an okay game, but it's tough when you're going with an all 6-for-6 lineup, putting Bam at center. You have nobody else to help rebound, and it's for that you're getting jumped by John Collins. You're getting jumped by Capella. You're getting jumped by Carney. There's multiple guys off the bench. Jalen Johnson, Sadiq Bey, like the size DeAndre Hunter, the size these guys are coming with off the bench in the starting lineup was, they out physical the Miami Heat starting lineup. So key points, it was the rebounding, star players not, going in offensively, but Tyler Hero and the bench scoring. I feel like Atlanta, they really won this game for the 4 players that came off the bench. They all cooked up. 53 points from 4 of them. They were pretty, fantastic. They were hitting threes, and the rebounding, you could say it was great for them off the bench. So ATL had a good win in this one. They stepped out. They came out and balled. Trey Young, 8 for 18. Not too efficient, but 25, 7, and 8. He came up in other areas. So it was a good game by the Hawks. And then we'll speak about Miami that second game. So we'll get to that.
I mean, yeah, the rebounding battle, something I mean, I obviously I noticed it while watching, but when you look at the numbers, 63 to 39, uh, God damn, Miami Heat got beat on the glass heavy. But I want to speak about the Atlanta Hawks, man, because obviously, I mean, we all had the Miami Heat winning, and the one reason I had them winning was simply because of the edge by having a guy like Jimmy Butler, who is a postseason performer. But this game he didn't show up. You know, it was the likes of Trae Young, the likes of Dejounte Murray, and their bench that really stepped it up. And I feel like the Atlanta Hawks did a great job at kind of running an offense where it's sometimes Trae Young controls the game and sometimes DeJounte Murray controls the game. They didn't have that last year. I pointed that out in our predictions episode where it was if besides Trae Young last year, pretty much nobody could put the ball on the floor and kind of create the offense for the rest of the guys that are out there. So DeJounte, he played his part. He struggled a little bit in the first half, but I feel like he had timely shots in the fourth quarter, and he was able to control the game alongside Trae Young in this one. So, all the credit in the world to the Atlanta Hawks. Losing PJ Tucker would hurt for this Miami Heat team, but simply because it's tough when you don't have a guy that could be overly aggressive on Trae Young and get away with it in the postseason. But Gabe Vincent and Max Strus, Caleb Martin, they try to do the best they can, but the best they could, but it just wasn't enough in this game. And you know, obviously we'll speak about the Miami Heat and what they did in the next game, but just wasn't it's just when you think about the outlook for the Miami Heat and their for the postseason since they've clinched, it's just not something that you can necessarily look at in a great light, because obviously they have a lot of problems with this roster construction as we mentioned. And so it's just going to be interesting to see how they try to, patch up all these holes that they got. But overall, very, very good win for the Atlanta Hawks, clinching the playoff spot, clinching that 7th seed with a very, very tough matchup with the Boston Celtics, which we'll get to in our next topic and next segment. But let's go ahead and move on to the second game of the night. We had the Minnesota Timberwolves go on the road and play the Los Angeles Lakers. This game, the Lakers won 108-102 in overtime. I got to say, this game was a little interesting.
First half, like Karl Anthony Towns, man, like I was like, this guy is absolutely hooping, and there's a lot of key points in that first half. It just felt like a very lethargic effort from the Lakers side. Felt like the Minnesota Timberwolves wanted it more, and even up until like the third quarter and the beginning of the fourth, it felt like Minnesota was exerting themselves offensively. Whenever they had the lineups of Slow-Mo and Cat out there, they were absolutely punishing the Lakers. I felt like Karl Anthony Towns doing a phenomenal job, and then fourth quarter is where the Lakers really, really tightened up. And, it's the fourth quarter. Everybody felt like it was one of the worst displays of basketball they've ever seen in a while. I mean, you just had terrible, terrible decisions all across the board from, even shocking. You even saw from a guy like LeBron James, he was making some questionable decisions when he was shooting a lot of jump shots, driving in at random times, trying to force the issue. But it felt like the Lakers, after the Wolves hit about 95 points, that they really tightened up on defense. They were switching about everything. Anthony Edwards had a terrible, terrible, terrible game. I mean, just from the aspect of not just shooting, but there's times where this guy was just holding up the possession, trying to get it to Cat, and then he would just hold it, and then they would just force the issue, and they would never get a good shot. So, the Lakers defense did a great job switching everything. They really tightened up on Cat, and I think from basically midway through the fourth quarter all the way to overtime, Cat barely scored anything, if anything.
Start of the fourth quarter to OT, they only made 5 shots in total.
Yeah, so they struggled really badly, and I think that's a sign. That's a good sign for the Lakers in terms of their defense. But the Grizzlies are a whole different outlook, so that's definitely something that we're gonna get to. So,
I mean, for that game in particular, the one person you got to credit for this game, he gets a lot of flack in Laker Nation. People want to send him to China, but he hooped that game. I'm gonna give it to Dennis Schroeder, man. He kind of hooped like, remember when he was like 6th man of the year contention with the Thunder? He brought the time back that game. He really was on it. D'Angelo Russell, I gotta see it in the playoffs. He kind of looks a bit underwhelming since the acquisition of like getting him to the Lakers. He got to show me something. He's on watch for me. But other than that, like I think you guys hit the nail on the noggin. This is like honestly Anthony Edwards like first like down in the mill game. So he definitely like he got a lot of flack for that, but obviously like he's gonna pick up in the playoffs. But other than that, you got to give a shout out to Dennis Schroeder on this one.
Man, I'm part of the Laker Nation that hates Dennis Schroeder. Every time he touches the court, every time I see him and Ham hugging on the sideline, him just coming into the game, 23 seconds to the shot clock, just throwing up nasty shots. It annoys me, So for him to come into that second half and, take over D'Lo's minutes and show up for us big time, especially in the fourth and OT, I'm gonna clap it up for him. You know what I'm saying? And to speak about the first half, these guys shot 60% from three, 60% from the field. Cat was hot, Slow Mo was hot. Even Mike Conley was hitting threes. Jalen Noel was hitting threes. Nicole Alexander was hitting a bunch of shots in the first half. These guys were just firing on all cylinders. And Lakers, it took time for them to get set, relax. And we came into that fourth quarter. We played some clamp defense. Play some clamp defense. We forced them to only make 5 shots in the fourth, and in the OT, they only took 2 shots in the paint in the OT. And these guys were complaining about, why can't the Minnesota Timberwolves get fouls? I mean, if you're not playing aggressive and not attacking the paint, you're only having 2 attempts in the paint in the whole fourth quarter, you're not going to get free throws. So for us, majority of our shots were coming in the paint. Especially that just being physical, Dennis Schroeder attacking the rim, finding his buckets. And then that big three. LeBron James finding him in the corner. It happens, but at the same time, I want to speak about the inconsistency of Anthony Davis and the mistakes he makes on the defensive side of the ball sometimes. Like contesting, we've seen this before. I forgot what the first guy he did this with. What's his name? Top of the key when he kind of fouled him on the 3-point line.
Maxi Kleber.
There we go, that Dallas game, Maxi Kleber, him being lost. And, this time it was LeBron and AD. They get doubled. They set a screen. Mike Conley gets open, and these two guys are lost. They don't know where they at. LeBron's in nowhere, la-la land, and AD's back in the paint like, what am I doing? That leaves Mike Conley open in the 3. So for them, they got to be better on the defensive side of the ball, situations like that. The game could have been over. And then speaking about OT with the LeBron turnover, passing it in, giving him another opportunity with who missed the 3 in the corner again?
Taurean Prince.
Taurean Prince. He had a wide open 3, and that came off a LeBron turnover on the inbound pass. That stuff like that we can't have happen in a 7-game series. If we go down the line against the Warriors or the Suns or the Nuggets, even a team like the Grizzlies as well, we cannot make those mistakes. So, I was happy that we fought back. Dennis Schroeder came in, and he solidified his spot. He made some big shots for us. And I want to speak about the Minnesota Big 3 as well. Not Minnesota Big 3, but the 3 guys that we got from Minnesota: Vanderbilt, D'Lo, and Malik Beasley. Those guys did not contribute whatsoever to whatever they came to do in this playing game. Not whatever. Like, we benched D'Lo second half. We put Vanderbilt out in the game second half. And Malik Beasley had 1 shot. Other than that, those guys were jumping up and down talking about, hey, revenge game. We left Minnesota. We're going to cook him. Nah, y'all got to come back next series. Y'all got to, perform. Y'all got to keep quiet. Y'all got to shut up. This is like the first go around for y'all, on a big team. You guys are going to be under a microscope. It's the Laker Nation. Y'all playing with LeBron. So all this hooting and hollering they were doing before the game, I don't want to hear that no more. But shout out my Lakers.
That is crazy big market talk, by the way, guys. I just got to point that out.
It's funny because, like, I remember it was Malik Beasley who hit a shot. He started dancing.
You seen him dancing with the top of the 3 key, and it was like halfway through the game. Twerking and digging on the court. Like, what are you doing?
I mean, you would think like he was like on fire, but like that was the only 3 he made the entire night. And to speak about all 3 of those guys, to piggyback off what you said, Big H, those 3 guys all had a combined 7 points, man. So that's a great revenge game for them. But to speak about this game specifically, I just feel like the obviously the Minnesota Timberwolves were shooting the lights out of the ball in the first half. So I feel like obviously the way they were shooting just wasn't sustainable as a carryover. And of course, credit to the Lakers defense in the fourth quarter and overtime for clamping up. But the officials played a huge part in this game, whether you guys want to believe it or not. Karl-Anthony Towns already being down 2 key guys. You're already down Rudy Gobert. You're down Jaden McDaniels. Karl-Anthony Towns being in foul trouble for majority of the game. Like, come on, man. Who are these guys supposed to resort to? They're already down Naz Reid as well for the rest of the season. So it's like,
tell him stop slapping. Tell him start moving with his legs. He can't play no defense. He cannot play no defense. That he couldn't move.
That's the thing, though. When it comes to the Lakers, man, it's the whistle is a generational whistle, man.
You always complain about the whistle when we win. Every time, that's your excuse.
I mean, the free throw margin for the Lakers in comparison to the Lakers is crazy, though.
Whistle. Tell them guys go play physical in the paint so they can get the whistle too. 2 shots.
A lot of guys were. I'll give Karl-Anthony Towns at least 3 of those fouls, but there's just no way this guy walked away with all 5 fouls, bro. And especially in a playing game where it's kind of like, the setting is high stakes basketball, which is something you want to see. You don't necessarily want to see the opposing team's best player in foul trouble for majority of the game. But obviously it is what it is. It took him out of his rhythm, and it was in favor of the Los Angeles Lakers, and it worked in their favor. But I do want to speak about Anthony Edwards, man. I know he had a bad game, and it's okay for him to have his bad game. I'm not gonna bash him too hard, but I just didn't appreciate or I didn't like the fact that he stopped being aggressive. Obviously he wasn't shooting with lights out from on in the field and stuff like that, and he wasn't making getting to the basket and making layups and stuff. But just for him to just sit back and kind of let Cal Anderson and everybody else on the floor do their thing and just kind of be a decoy just didn't sit right with me, because I've seen this before against the Golden State Warriors, where the Warriors took him out of the game completely, and this guy was just passing the ball to Conley, passing the ball to Kyle Anderson, and just sitting in the corner, just letting those guys go to work. And obviously, the Warriors were able to win that game. I just feel like even though Anthony Edwards wasn't having a great night, you still got to be aggressive. You still got to put pressure at the rim. You still got to put pressure on the defense to open up the game for all the guys that are doing pretty well from themselves. So I just feel like it's something that he can obviously learn from. I believe Anthony Edwards is a dog in this league, but credit to the Lakers, man. They really clamped up. LeBron and AD came to play, 30 points, 10 rebounds, 6 assists. AD 24 and 15. Another day in the office for him. Schroeder really stepped it up on the bench. Of course, my guy AD ruined his game winner, but at the end of the day, the Lakers were able to come out victorious in this one, 108 to 106, 108 to 102. And they're able to clinch a spot and a date with the Memphis Grizzlies, man. It's not going to be an easy series, but we'll get to that in a little bit. Let's go ahead and move on to let's go ahead and move back to the Eastern Conference. My Chicago Bulls went into Toronto and beat the Raptors 109 to 105. Zach LaVine, man, I gotta say he stepped up in this one.
Now this one, I mean, the first half, it was really just Kobe White doing a lot of the damage for the Raptors. I mean, I feel like he was a big reason why they were still in the game with this one. But the Raptors were just doing an absolute phenomenal job in terms of guarding the stars. I mean, Zach LaVine was quiet in that first half. DeMar DeRozan was starting to get to his spots, but it felt like the Raptors had total control of this game. They're up by 23 at one point. Fred VanVleet was hitting shots. Siakam was getting to his spots. He was scoring. Scottie Barnes was contributing. Jakob Poeltl was making good passes out of the high post. I mean, everybody was getting touches. It was good basketball. And then third quarter, Zach LaVine remembered he's an all-star shooting guard. I mean, this towards the end of the third quarter, this guy just put on a clinic, shot after shot, getting to the basket. And I feel like that's the essence of his game, just being a lot more aggressive, trying to get to the basket, drawing fouls, hitting shots. And, I feel like that gave the Bulls some sort of energy, a surge of energy. And then, DeMar started hitting shots. And in the fourth quarter, it was almost my turn, you turn basketball. DeMar would go and attack, and then Zach LaVine would go and attack. I mean, he had that one shot where he bumped Scottie Barnes, hit a step back right in his face. I mean, that's just Zach LaVine for you. He always has that potential to just turn it up. And so the Raptors, their offense completely crumbled. And then it's just the biggest story of this game, I think everybody already knows, is DeMar DeRozan's daughter. I mean, like when I first heard it, like I was just like, what the hell's going on? And I didn't think it had an effect. And then, these guys were starting to really brick free throws. I mean, the icing on the cake for them was Siakam bricking those free throws. I mean, that was his chance to stay in the game and give him a chance to win it. And Siakam just bricked them. And so, I mean, it's tough. His game check, DeMar DeRozan's game check definitely needs to go to his daughter. I mean, she did a great job for them, but we saw what happened in the next game in Miami. We'll get to that, but they did a phenomenal job. So,
Yeah, man, the name of the game was the free throws. As professional athletes, NBA players at that, you got to make your free throws. They went like 18 to 36 in free throws. That's a disgusting display of basketball. I think the outlook for the Raptors is actually interesting too. I think Nick Nurse is gone. Like at this point, he's out of there. I want to see OG shipped out for his own right, because I feel like he can flourish somewhere else. Siakam, I have no clue. He's spinning somewhere. And then Fred VanVleet, I have no clue about him too. He could stay there too, but I just want OG to leave. Other than that, Zach LaVine, he balled out. Like 40 points? He had around there, I think. He had 40. DeMar DeRozan, he had like a decent game, nothing too crazy, but they turned it up in the second half, man. Salute to them.
Yeah, man, it's crazy. I feel like what Henna said. I feel like this team is ready to blow up, but at the same time, I feel like they have overpriced a couple players now. And now teams are gonna be like, hey, we know what type of basketball you guys play. It's dysfunctional in the locker room. Even Van Fleet came out, he was like, "These, like we don't want it. It's the type of we don't communicate on the team. It's a lot of stuff going on in that locker room." And I feel like they outpriced themselves with saying, "Hey, we want 4 picks for OG, or we want 3 picks for Gary Trent, or we want 4 picks for what's his face, Siakam." And it's like you're asking prices like these guys. you're pairing them up with, Jokic type pricing, KD type pricing. Like they're not superstars to me. OG's not a superstar. Scotty Barnes not a superstar. Fred VanVleet. Me and Abdi always go over this. I don't think he's a good player. I don't know. I never thought he was a good player. He played a great role on that finals team, but to me, offensively, the second half they just stunk it up, and that always starts off with free throws, man. Guys getting paid 80 million, 90 million, $100 million just to miss free throws. Kind of embarrassing. They could have sealed the game off if they made 10 or 12 more free throws, but Chicago second half they came in and Levine took over, and defensively they locked in. And this is what reason I picked them. I was like, I really thought defensively the whole game they're going to be locked in. And second half they came up and showed. Levine came up, showed second half. Shout out to DeMar DeRozan. He came in, played like Debo that second half. His daughter was right there next to him, helping a lot. So Chicago, man, they came in and second half after that halftime down, what was it, 17 or 18? Yeah, they hit a click after that, midway through third quarter. So it was fantastic to see that. But there's a lot to go with Toronto, man. Nick Nurse is probably going to field some other offers with other teams. Feel like OG's gonna leave, Fred's gonna leave, and Siakam's probably gonna find a new home. And Toronto's little run that they had the last 5 years is disappearing. Kawhi blessed them with a ring. Now they're about to go back to nothing.
Yeah, I mean, I liked how this game went for my Bulls, man. I said it in our predictions episode. I had a feeling that the Toronto Raptors were gonna have a long and hard night trying to stop my backcourt and Levine and DeRozan, man. And I feel like when those guys have it going, it's tough. It's tough to stop because it opens up the game for a lot of the other guys like Kobe White, guys like Vucevic, to just do their thing. And that's exactly what went down. But it was mostly on the backs of Levine and DeRozan in this one, especially in that third quarter for Levine, and then in the fourth, it was a dynamic duo that really just took over. DeRozan going back to a place he's very, very familiar with. A lot of those shots, he was struggling with, through the season, but he did get, nominated as a finalist for being one of the most clutch players in the league just recently. So, it's not a surprise that he was able to hit shots down the stretch. But man, this is like a tale of two halves, though, man. You watch the Toronto Raptors in the first half, and these guys look like they're ready to make the playoffs and ready to play another game on Friday and clinch a spot. But once again, these guys just showed what type of team they've been all season long. Through the good, through the bad, and pretty much first half everything was going well for them. They capped off that first half with a Fred VanVleet half-court shot. Things are going great in the locker room at halftime. Next thing you know, these guys come out, and once the game's over, these guys lose. So it's going to be a lot of soul searching and roster revamping that the Toronto Raptors need to do. But just be prepared to see a lot of guys in different spots on this team. Guys like Siakam, Fred VanVleet, and OG and Gary Trent will probably all be gone. Maybe even Poto will be gone. So I think they'll try to just rebuild around Scotty Barnes and try to build this thing up from scratch the correct way. Because obviously these guys won a championship and wanted to kind of just build off that while still losing the guy that helped them win the championship. But it hasn't been working out these last couple of years. So they might have to go back to the drawing board with this one. But this is a very, very good one for my Bulls. And now we'll go ahead and move on to the final playing game of this night. Between 9 and 10 seed, we had the Oklahoma City Thunder going to New Orleans and beat the Pelicans 123-118.
This was, I mean, Adam Silver, man, the script that he has for the playing game is just phenomenal, man. Like every single playing game to me is just, there's always high stakes. It's good basketball to watch, but OKC, they came into this game. I think a lot of people had the Pelicans winning this, and in our predictions, I did have the Pelicans winning this just because of the sheer size that Valanciunas has, and what he would be doing to this team. And early on in the game, even throughout the rest of the game, he was causing problems for OKC. I mean, just on the glass, it just felt like there was no size, and that's something that's key for OKC is that they generally just don't have size at the center position. They start Jalen Williams, who's 6'9". He's not a rim protector. He's mostly a guy that just takes charges and spaces the floor. So, a lack of rim protection. And I mean, Lou Dort was just phenomenal to start this game and throughout the rest of the game, but especially in the first half. I mean, this guy was just putting pressure on the Pelicans. Even when Brandon Ingram would hit a shot, this guy would come right back and get to the basket, draw free throws. Shea didn't have a good first half, but Gideon and Lou Dort, I mean, they made it a point to be aggressive and get to the basket and score. And they did a great job of keeping OKC into this game. And third quarter, that's where the stars show up, and it was big for Shea in this third quarter. I mean, to have Herb Jones on him, and he was just getting to the basket, hitting his shots, just hitting crazy layups, and then defensively he was just doing a phenomenal job. But Lou Dort is someone that I think was the MVP of this game. I mean, just his sheer defense on Brandon Ingram. Brandon Ingram did have a good game, but you guys saw the way Lou Dort was just going around screen after screen, giving him problems, forcing Brandon Ingram to have to take mismatches to be able to score against the OKC. But Lou Dort did a phenomenal job, and Giddey and Shea, they basically closed it out for this team. And the Pelicans, Brandon Ingram had a great game, but this guy CJ McCollum, there needs to be a discussion about this guy and his play style and how good he really is. I mean, this last year, we saw how bad he was in the final play-in games. We saw how he was in the first round series against the Suns. I mean, this guy, he's been a playoff dropper for a while now. If he never had that series against the Nuggets, I just wonder what CJ McCollum would look like, and how people would view him, because for him to send subtle shots against Zion just doesn't sit right with me at all. And I know there's a lot of criticisms against Zion, but for him of all people to talk about Zion and talk about, we need to diet better, we need to eat healthier, sleep better, blah blah blah. I mean, you did all those things and you're still trash. So, what did you gain? Availability is the best ability, but with him, there was no ability against OKC. I mean, if CJ McCollum had remotely played any better against OKC, they would have won this game. If he didn't let Brandon Ingram die out there, they would have had a better chance. So, he's the last person to talk about Zion. And if I'm Zion, I'm sitting there like, why is this dude talking about me? If Brandon Ingram said that, that's one thing. But if this guy's talking about that, that just don't sit right with me, man, at all. So.
Yeah, nah, CJ McCollum sucks.
Straight up like that, huh?
Yeah, I don't know what to put it, man.
Get to the point.
Like, what is he good at? Like, I guess he was like a mid-range specialist back in what's it called, with the Blazers, but now he's just like, I don't know, he's like lethargic, like he's just terrible. Whenever he's on the court, it just makes me mad. There was one play where he went for a floater, it just bricked off, and I just I turned off my television. I was mad seeing him out there. But Trey Murphy, he had a good shoot performance. I can't lie, I'll give it to him. And the Valanciunas, I think he like twisted his ankle, so like losing him a little bit kind of hurt them towards the end. They had to play Jackson Hayes. He's like has 2 left feet, so there's a lot of like glaring stuff that they were missing. And then obviously like Mrs. Zion is a big piece as well. But back to the Thunder, man, that future is bright down in OKC. I ain't gonna lie, the sun is shining over there. Lou Dort, they challenged him to shoot the ball. He shot the ball well that game. Salute to him. Josh Giddey, out there dishing the diamond, man. Shout out my guy, man. And then Shea, he did his thing in the third. So it was a good showing for the OKC Thunder, man.
Man, shout out OKC, man. They came in, prepared to play against these guys, and all the games, like I said during the season series, a bunch of the games were 3-point games, 2-point games, 4-point games. So every game was close, but to see Giddey, to see Lou Dort, to see Shai, all pull through for the team, they were taking turns on CJ, man. CJ, we're gonna speak about CJ. You feel me? He was taking shots at Portland for not making the playoffs or anything. Like, he actually made the playoffs. The guy was in the play-in. He said, "Yeah, Portland didn't make the playoffs. I'm in the playoffs." You're not in the playoffs, buddy. You're in the play-ins. You did not show up. You played 42 minutes. You shot 5 for 15, 1 for 5 from 3, and dished out like 2 assists, only had 14 points. And for him to take shots at Zion saying, "Hey, fix up your diet. If you're healthy, you got to play." Bro, you were on the court for 42 minutes. You didn't contribute to nothing. You did as much as Zion did on the bench. As much as he did playing 0 minutes, you did the same. So for him to come out, to say he's a big playoff factor. He can factor in winning games. He has not contributed in any other series but the Nuggets series that he had a couple years ago. And every other series that he's played in, he's been shit. So, CJ, a lot of people think this guy's a good player, and a lot of people say, "Hey, he's this and that." I never rated CJ, and now him taking shots at Zion, an injured player that's sitting on the bench trying to get healthy, has been through a lot with, his injury history and a lot going on probably in his head about the injuries that he's going through. It's a bad way to take a shot at your teammate. So I didn't respect that at all whatsoever. And guys like Trey Murphy, guys like, Herb Jones and Brandon Ingram, they play fantastic. All 3 of them scoring above 20 points. Even Jonas on a tweaked ankle, he played good. Shea, man, one of the best players in the league, showed up in the fourth quarter. And he performed well. So, I'm not a guy that was heavy on, Chet going to this team, but I do want to see how they do play with Chet when he comes back and how the role's going to be with him on the court, play probably like a stretch 4 position on for that team. And they got a whole lot of picks. They got about 15 first-round picks the next couple of years. Future's bright for them. So, it was a good win for them in this game. We're going to speak about the next game.
I mean, you mentioned Lou Dort, being the X factor and the game changer in this game. I feel like it was Josh Giddey, man. I didn't know Giddey had game like that. For him to just go out there and drop 31 and 9 and 10 so casually on this team. I thought it was just gonna be the Shea show and everybody's just gonna try to chip in where they can. But they gotta, Shea to get huge help from Giddey and Dort was huge, man. It was big for this team, and everybody else didn't necessarily have to contribute a lot. Everyone had to just play some defense and chip in their, 7 to 11 points. But man, the Pelicans, like you guys all mentioned, Brandon Ingram was just out there to die. Obviously Trey Murphy, Herb Jones, and JV, they try to do what they can. They try to do what they could, but the bench unit was terrible for this team. They lack a bench, but we knew that coming into this game. But CJ McCollum, I can't necessarily add on anything more to what you guys said about him. He was shit this game, and that's just who he is in the postseason. This guy's not a performer whatsoever. And to speak about the situation about him throwing subtle shots at Zion, it's just funny because this guy called Katie a bitch, and the next thing you know, he brings Katie onto his podcast, and then he tells Katie, "Well, yeah, I thought we had a chance in that series against you guys," and this guy Katie straight up laughed in his face, so disrespectful, So he didn't do nothing about that, and for him to just bash Zion right when he performed like that, it just made absolutely no sense to me. And if I'm Zion, man, I feel some type of way, and I honestly consider trying moving on from this franchise. I know we talked about him in the Pelicans organization just trading him, but if I'm Zion, bro, I'm not too sure if I want to be there anymore, man. Because each and every year, I know we all know that he can't stay healthy and play a full 82 and stuff like that. But for them to just constantly always bring him up and be like, if Zion could have played here, if Zion could have played there, like at the end of the day, this is the playing tournament we're talking about, and obviously the team that is this team is just not all about Zion. You have Brandon Ingram there, you have CJ McCollum. The reason why you brought CJ was to kind of have this whole big three going on with him and BI and Zion. And unfortunately, Zion wasn't able to go. But CJ McCollum didn't do his part. He didn't do enough to give the Pelicans an opportunity to even give Zion a chance at coming back in the postseason. So it's just like, every time that something goes wrong, it's Zion that has to take all the heat for it. Like, what about when CJ is not playing well? What about when BI is not playing well during the season? Like, it all just comes back to Zion, and I don't think that's right. Obviously you got to put the light on where it's supposed to be at. Sometimes it's on BI, sometimes it's on CJ, sometimes on the coaching and everybody else in the mix. But it's just hella funny when this guy CJ just comes out and says, we gotta eat better, we gotta train better, we gotta sleep better, we gotta do all these things correctly. And then all of a sudden, this guy goes out there and puts up 14 points, like he dropped like 40 points or something like that, man. It's just hilarious to me. But overall, very, very good one for the Thunder, man. They needed this one, and they got it.
Yeah, CJ McCollum, look at me, man. You can have a keto diet, you still go shoot 2 for 10. You
No
suck.
matter what type
Shut
of
up.
diet he on. Man, but that thing, it does annoy me though. Every time the Pelicans do lose, or they lose a big game or something, and they don't blame anybody on the court. It's like, hey, Zion. They bring up Zion, like he's supposed to be on the court with them. Of course he is, but if he's injured, what can you do to fix that injury? You feel me? Like if he's not on the court, it's got to be the guys on the court. But they all
It's just a cop out. Like,
yeah, it's a
but see,
cop
no, the
out.
thing is though, like if CJ dropped 40 and said, "Yo, like if Zion were here, we're gonna win." Okay, fair enough. You did your part.
Yeah.
But the guy played like ass, and he's talking like he's a star. Like, no, Zion has nothing to do with you playing trash. Like,
Yeah.
stop. Like, I hate. It's crazy. It creates a culture where everybody else starts blaming Zion on the rest of that team because
Mhm.
CJ's supposed to be one of the leaders of this team. Supposed to be one of the guys leading this team, and for some reason, this guy's taking subtle shots as Zion. So, I mean, I've seen this from CJ. I mean, last time when JJ Redick called out Zion in the media, talking about CJ and Zion, they haven't really spoken. And JJ Redick called out Zion. I'd expect CJ as a teammate to come out and defend Zion and be like, maybe he's going through some things, or maybe we haven't just gotten to speaking yet. But that's who CJ is. He let Katie laugh at him in his face. He let Draymond clown him before. This guy he's not that guy. So I'm not surprised about this.
I completely agree, man. But well, that guy's in Cancun now, and it's time for us to move on to the final two playing games. And to start off, we have the Miami Heat going up against the Chicago Bulls in a home game, and this is where the Bulls suffered their fate, and the Heat were able to win this one 102-91.
Now this game was an up and down game, man. Like, again, I don't know what has happened to Bam Adebayo's offense since the All-Star break. I mean, completely fallen off a cliff. And like, if these were tough shots and you were not making them, I would be like, he missed those tough shots. Those tough shots, the defense forced him into taking them. But this guy was missing bunnies. Like, that's the part that annoys me. Like, he's missing gimmies that he usually makes. But Max Thompson, Max Strus, he hooped this game, man. And it pisses me off because this is where Pat Riley's gonna smile and he's gonna re-sign this guy because of this one game. That's the thing that annoys me. But he's phenomenal in this game, just shooting the rock. Just absolutely amazing. We got a battle between Caruso and Max Strus. Nobody would have said that before this game started, but that's exactly what we got in the first half, especially DeMar DeRozan. He had a good game, but Zach LaVine, man, this is where the enigma comes for Zach LaVine. This is where you're just like, what's going on with Zach LaVine? I mean, 6 for 21. That's not what he expected after the last game. And I feel like Zach LaVine is just, that's the inconsistency where it just lies with Zach LaVine, where one time you see this guy and he's an absolute superstar. The next is just a guy who just misses stuff that he should be making. So, I mean, in this game, the story was Jimmy Butler closing it out in the fourth quarter. I mean, I think he had 12 points in that fourth quarter, just dominated, getting to the basket, drawing fouls, and Kobe White, he tried to chip in, he tried to help out that team, but this team, it's to me another team that's in basketball purgatory. It's like the same situation with the Wizards, where you don't know which direction you're heading in, and currently the roster as constructed with Vucevic and DeRozan and Zach LaVine, I just don't think this team is headed towards anything. They're a fringe playoff team, they're a fringe play-in team. They're not a team built for success, and I think they just have to blow it up with DeMar and Vucevic and just try rebuilding around Zach and moving forward like that. So, because the roster as it is right now, it's not doing anything. So,
Man, the Strus was loose, as they say, huh? Nah, he was getting to it early in the game. He definitely earned himself. I know Pat's like pulling up the checkbook, which I honestly don't want. You want me to be honest? I didn't want us to win that game.
yeah, I would.
I'd rather just have a lottery pick or a pick outside the lottery. We'd have been at 14, but now we're gonna play Giannis, and he's gonna just beat us in 4. So I don't know why we won that game, but we won it. I'm gonna take what we can to show the effort. Bam, like you said, his offense since after All-Star break has just been a bit odd. He gets the shots that he usually gets, but he's just not making them. I don't know if that's a confidence thing. I remember the game right after the Hawks game. He was like, "Yo, like I'm not getting the ball," but I'm thinking in my head like, "You have the ball right at the key, not right at the key, but like for the dribble handoff, like bro, like fake a handoff and like do a layup or something. Like get creative, bro." I don't know, man. He needs like a psychiatrist or something. I don't know what's wrong with that guy. But Jimmy was on his stuff. I respect that. Tyler had like he was just out there game. One of those like I'm just out here just like doing whatever I can, but I'm not really on anything. But other than that, we won. I'll take a good Strus game and a Jimmy game. So shout out to the guys, man.
Man, big game from Jimmy, man. Playoff Jimmy showed up in the fourth quarter. Yeah, this is the Jimmy Ball I've been waiting for. First playing game, he didn't show up at all. Second game, that fourth quarter, he looked different, and that's what Miami needed. He came in, took over. Max Strus, man, Pat Riley, and this guy finds guys off the corner in Miami. He probably was partying in a nightclub in Miami. He was like, "Hey, man, you're 6'6". You probably can shoot the ball. I'm gonna pull you out. Let's go." Gave him a little nice contract. And hey, today was the day he showed up, and that's what the Heat needed. And we always talked about Zach LaVine and him being consistent in big games, and not even big games, just in general in the season. One game he'll go for 40, and the next game he'll drop down 6 for 22, 6 for 23, and he's not playing up to par. He's going back to lackadaisical shots. He's shooting, a bunch of jumpers, mid-rangers. He's not attacking the rim. He's not being aggressive. That's what it looked against the Heat. Wasn't aggressive whatsoever. And like I just said, the Bulls, they're in that weird predicament where they don't know what the future is looking like, and they don't know with Debo's age, with what's his face, Vucevic's age as well. Those type of guys, like what are they gonna do with him in the next upcoming years? They have a couple young guys in Patrick Williams, Ayu Domosu, even Kobe White. Maybe when Lonzo does come back, hopefully he does come back healthy for them. I mean, they do got a bunch of young guys, but where does the future lie for them? LaVine he probably wants out after this offseason, depending on how the team looks in this offseason. But man, that fourth quarter run, they had the lead. Kobe White was hitting a couple threes. If LaVine and DeMar could have a couple shots in that fourth quarter, it could have been a different outcome. But LaVine was not there at all. So, Miami came in, Jimmy Butler, playoff Butler. Max Strus, he showed up, and yeah, bam, 1 for 9, 8 points. I don't know what the hell has happened to this guy. I feel like he's just lost his offense. He's not being physical. I don't see the post moves. The mid-range jump shot's not there anymore. There's a lot of stuff going on with him offensively in the end, but he did have that big block in the end of the game to kind of seal the deal. And was pretty big. So great defensive performance by him. 17 rebounds. He kind of chipped in there and helped there. But Miami, they still got some issues. They, size wise, they got to fix up on getting another big to pair of Bam to stretch the floor for him. But we'll see what happens.
After losing the rebounding battle with the Atlanta Hawks by a huge margin, it was nice. It was good to see the Miami Heat come back and win the rebounding battle versus my Chicago Bulls. But to speak about this game, man, this game was extremely defensive. Both teams were playing hard on that end of the floor, and even in the fourth quarter, even throughout Zach LaVine's struggles and stuff like that, and Nikola Vucevic not necessarily showing up, that game was still there for the Chicago Bulls, man. I feel like it came down to coaching. Honestly, Kobe White really bringing the spark off the bench in the fourth quarter, hitting 3 threes, and then next thing you know, he gets subbed out for Patrick Beverly, who doesn't necessarily provide anything on offense. And to speak about Patrick Beverly for 1 second, I think he had 0 points in 26 minutes. So it's like, obviously we all know you're throwing him out there for defensive purposes and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, it's kind of like just you got to stick with the guys that are giving you the buckets. And just let those guys play, give effort on the defensive side of the ball. I understand Jimmy Butler was just going to hunt down Kobe White or Zach LaVine, but it is what it is at that point. If Kobe White can give you, threes and Jimmy Butler's throwing back twos, you're kind of still winning in that aspect of the game. But overall, Jimmy Butler, way to respond. It's kind of like the story kind of flipped. Zach LaVine showed up in that first playing game. Jimmy Butler didn't against the Hawks, and the next thing you know, Zach LaVine doesn't play well. Jimmy Butler shows up. So obviously that was the edge. And Bam, obviously we talked about his struggles early on, but I think 17 rebounds and his defensive presence was a huge problem for the Chicago Bulls. And I mean, for the Bulls, their future, man, they have 8 guys they don't necessarily have a contract, and obviously you might want to move on from DeMar DeRozan because it's just not going to work out. This fit between him and LaVine. Obviously, the direction you want to go in is you want to keep LaVine for as long as possible, but LaVine, even though he's a great player, he's a good player, but he has his moments where he's inconsistent and stuff like that. This guy can be very, very solid on the championship contending team, so he's gonna want out really, really soon if the Bulls don't necessarily provide him with the roster good enough to win. So overall, it was a good one for Miami. Not necessarily too mad about it. The Orlando Magic are the true biggest winners coming out of the Chicago Bulls loss simply because they have their draft pick for this year. But I mean, hey, the winner goes on a date with the Milwaukee Bucks for a full series. So good luck to y'all. But let's go ahead and move on to the last playing game. We have the Oklahoma City Thunder going up against the Minnesota Timberwolves. Unfortunately, the Thunder weren't able to pull out this time around. The Timberwolves dominate this game 120-95.
Yeah, this was first half. It was a close game, and then towards the third quarter and then fourth quarter, it's just the game opened up like crazy. I mean, this was a point that everybody had made even going into the general play-in games was just OKC's lack of size. And, when you're going up against Karl-Anthony Towns and Rudy Gobert, you're just going to have no shot whatsoever because you have Jalen Williams, the center for Arkansas, guarding Rudy Gobert, and then you have Jalen guarding Karl-Anthony Towns. And, that's just a mismatch. You have a 6'6" guard guarding 6'11" guy, and then you have a 6'8" center guarding a 7-footer. So you're gonna have absolutely no chance on the glass, and it's what the Timberwolves emphasized as soon as they got into this game. Just feed everybody that's just above 6'8" in this game, and then of course Shea's struggles in this game, and that's a combination of shots that he usually makes. He was missing bunnies where he would step up and under. And then his cousin, for some reason, was just decided, I know all your moves, so I'm just gonna clamp you up this game. Nickeil Alexander-Walker, he played a phenomenal defensive game. He kept himself disciplined. He wasn't fouling Shea. And then Shea, of course, he was missing shots. And, it was a combination of Timberwolves just basically saying, we'll force Josh Giddey and Lou Dort to beat us. And, they were getting their open shots and they just weren't making them from outside. Lou Dort, he had a pretty decent game still, in my opinion. But even then, they still didn't respect his shot. They didn't respect Josh Giddey's shot. And this is where the whole concerns about not having Chet really came up. This is where, if somebody was watching this game, this is where someone like Chet would have filled in because, they had no paint defense whatsoever, no rebounding at all, no floor spacing, just a lack of a vertical threat. And so the next step, this is just a next step for OKC's development, but they can't be mad at this result. They made it this far. They were projected 17.5 wins without Chet this year. And, they to make it all the way into the play-in and be potentially almost into the playoffs is just a right step in the direction for them. So, they can't be too mad about this result.
Yeah, that's definitely a step in the right direction. I mean, obviously being projected as a lottery team to practically making your way to the playoffs is really impressive. Yeah, I mean the glaring holes about this game was basically, they just flat out just didn't have a big. Like they had Rudy Gobert licking his chops, and if Rudy Gobert's licking his chops, that's the sign of like, hey, we need a big, and obviously like Chet is gonna be that guy to kind of be the one to be the loomer around the defense. They're probably gonna have him at the four, so I'm excited to see him get back. But as far as the Thunder, like they know what their issues are, and then they go like clean that up and just fix that up in the offseason. So I mean, salute to them, they go get back. But then other than that, as far as the Wolves side, I like the way what's called Kyle Anderson was dishing out the ball. Uh, Anthony Edwards had a decent game. Cat, that guy was hooping. The jump shot was looking right. I'm excited to see how they play against the Nuggets.
Yeah, what stood out for me was, Cat being more aggressive, attacking the paint. You only made 1 3. Like, you had 28 points. A lot of it was, playing physical. He's seen the mismatches inside, and he took advantage of that. That's what I expect Cat to do for a lot of, teams that play smaller guards on him, smaller forwards on him, put small forwards on him. Got to be aggressive, attack the paint. Don't be scared. And this game, he came out and did that. But the size wise, it was just Gobert and Cat. They dominated in the paint. When you got Gobert scoring 21 points, it's like, the hell can he do? He really can't do much. We don't see Gobert score 21 points like that. It's once in a blue moon. You feel me? So that happened, and I felt like they played phenomenal defense on Shea. They played phenomenal defense on Giddy. Giddy from his first game in the play to this game, it just looked like two completely different players. Like it was him the first game, and then his twin played the second game, and we really didn't see much of him in the second game. So they kind of swapped out, and he played like some shit the second game, and he wasn't showing up. But Minnesota's, their starting five played consistent. They played fantastic. Nicole Alexander-Walker, played good. Ant came back from that first horrible game that he had against the Lakers. He came up 19 points, 8 for 19, but it's much better than what he did against the Lakers. Mike Conley, another consistent game, and Slow-Mo coming off the bench. He played fantastic. But like I just said, projected 17 wins coming into this season. OKC outplayed everything that people said about them. And to be here, to be in this spot was perfect for them. And they're going to come back next year even stronger. They're going to get Chet back. They're going to be back in the draft with multiple picks. Who knows what they can do in free agency with the team they have right now. So for them, it's not looking like, hey, be disappointed, be down. You guys fought your way up here, made the play-ins, and almost had a chance to make the playoffs. So good for them. They're going to go back to the drawing board with a lot of pieces. And Minnesota versus Timberwolves. Minnesota versus the Nuggets. I'm kind of excited to see that series. I want to see if Cat's aggressive against Jokic, and having Cat and Gobert playing on Jokic. We're going to see what happens, but we'll see.
Yeah, man. Good things happen when Karl-Anthony Towns isn't in foul trouble, man. Let's start off by saying that. Let's take note of that. Cat had himself a hell of a game. Rudy Gobert, doing behind the backs, doing things that he's never done in his life before. So it's just like, it was just that type of day for the Timberwolves, man. Those guys just went out there and had fun. They just started hooping. Anthony Edwards' way to bounce back, almost had himself a triple-double. And obviously, with Shea and his struggles, obviously the train is only going to go as far as Shea leads it. He's the leader, he's the engine of this team. If he's not going, everybody else is not going to go. So I'm not surprised to see Giddey and everybody else really struggle like that, because obviously once they see their leader down, it's kind of tough to try to pick it back up when he's kind of like the guy who has the ball in his hands majority of the time. But watching that game, obviously it's evident these guys need a rim protector. Chet could help him out in that aspect of the game, obviously, in rebounding and stuff like that. I do believe they do need an anchor down there as well. Another guy they could pair alongside Chet. Chet does have the ability to stretch the floor, so obviously, on the defensive side, it could be him and somebody else, and then on offense, it could look a little bit different with him stretching the floor out. So, the Oklahoma City Thunder, man, these guys they've had themselves a hell of a season. They had a good run. Obviously, they have an interesting and nice little offseason to look forward to. They're going to get their number 3 overall pick back, number 2 overall pick back in Chet. But obviously Minnesota, going on to a matchup with the Denver Nuggets. It's going to be interesting to see how they try to use their size against Jokic. Obviously, and Aaron Gordon as well. So, and how they match up. So it's going to be interesting to see. Overall, good win for them. But that pretty much wraps up our NBA play-in tournament recap.
Record a new hit, then we making us a film. Wouldn't sign a deal if I got a couple mil. Been in the lab, now they throwing out deals. Seeing now late, now that's overkill.